What's going on, everybody? I'm back with another video. This video is going to be looking at the tactical setup of Liverpool and Villarreal and how Villarreal almost stole a spot in the finals against Liverpool and how Liverpool overcame their challenges and ultimately had too much for Villarreal on the day. Now, before we get into that, check out the OneFootball app. It's the best football app out there to stay up to date with all the things football, your favorite teams, best leagues all around the world, and the biggest news all in one place. It's the app I use to stay up to date with the games. There's a link in the description below. It's completely free, and I wouldn't be recommending it to you guys if I didn't use it myself. That's me on your screen, just scrolling through the app, showing you the features. So be sure to check out the app and support the channel. This is the last month that we're partnering with them and that they'll be sponsoring the video. So be sure to show your support and download the app. It would be a huge help. And as always, while you're in the description, check out both my books. There's links in the description, and check out Keyframe. It's how I'm making this video. Now let's get right into the tactical setups of the two teams. So Liverpool in the first half had a lot of trouble building out against Villarreal, and this was due to the fact that Liverpool built out of the back in a way that facilitated Villarreal to then go and press them in a 4-4-2, staggering their midfield very much, and Liverpool playing with a deep build-up, with Thiago dropping into the left half space very deep, attracting pressure and playing very close to then Van Dijk, and going with a single pivot. Then Andy Robertson and Trent Alexander-Arnold would occupy very high positions up the field, oftentimes disconnected from the ball. So how Villarreal pressed Liverpool so effectively in the first half was in a 4-4-2. Their two central strikers would then be tasked with isolating possession, using their cover shadows to then block access into central areas, like through the player Fabinho, who didn't get on the ball to break the press very much and force the ball into the wide areas, which would then force Liverpool to play direct because of the high press of Villarreal coming from central areas. So they press from in to out, forcing the ball wide. Now, when we talk about a staggered midfield, this might be one of the best games to look at this concept. With this zigzag shape in the midfield, it allows Villarreal to have access on multiple different lines, and by staggering which players are deeper and which are higher, it creates multiple access to this Liverpool team. We see Naby Keita playing a more central role, often drifting to the right half space, allows players in deeper areas, the holding midfielders in this example, to then create access to multiple players. Then with players cheating higher up the field, it also gives them an advantage when they go and press and use their cover shadow to maximize interception. And we see the cover shadow of the advanced midfielder using to block the central area of Naby Keita and being attracted to Fabinho. So it's a very clear structure that fits very well against Liverpool. Then we see the front three from Liverpool occupy very high positions and very narrow positions. And this forced Liverpool to oftentimes play very direct against a narrow back four. And some of the trends from this Villarreal back four was when Liverpool would try and use a false nine, dropping Jota in, or Mane or Salah dropping between the lines, these players from Villarreal would jump with them, and even sometimes to attacking midfielders, playing with numerical equality, taking risks against this Liverpool side, which in the first half definitely paid off. So now in the second half, there was clear changes from Liverpool that gave Villarreal trouble. Now we have Trent Alexander-Arnold staying in a deeper position alongside with a more wide and deeper back four. And also we see the formation of a double pivot. So not only do we have more players committed to the first and second line of build-up, but especially in central areas. So this then overstretched the Villarreal midfield and forced two players to go and jump. So now we see Villarreal committing two central midfielders to jumping, and now the wide midfielders are the players staying deeper, forcing then the Villarreal back line to become broken and then creating a lot of space in behind. So with this man-oriented approach and numerical equality at the back, it left gaps in behind for Liverpool to then go exploit. And with the added intensity that Liverpool used for their double pivot and their fullbacks to gain better control over second balls, Liverpool had much more success in the match. But we see with Naby Keita and Sadio Mane playing between the lines, dropping deeper in the half space and in the central areas, it drags the central defenders into inefficient areas with opportunities from Mo Salah and Luis Diaz in the second half to then run in behind and really hurt Villarreal and allow Liverpool to move up the field and not play in their own third and not have unsuccessful attempted progressions. So now in the midfield third, we have Trent Alexander-Arnold, oftentimes occupying positions of width throughout the match, especially later on in the game where he was able to get higher up the field and in more efficient areas. Then the back four remain the same with Van Dijk and Konate, and then Thiago dropping into the left half space with Andy Robertson providing full width on this left-hand side, allowing Mane, Jota, and Salah to then occupy narrow positions. Then we have the clear midfield three of Liverpool with fluidity that wasn't quite effective in the first half because of the strong defensive setup of Villarreal. So they kept a good high line with their mid-block that Liverpool weren't able to exploit successfully. But then we have a very compact midfield shape and two central forwards. And some of it could be that Villarreal's pressure on the ball was much better in the first half, that they couldn't get as much free service to then access these spaces in behind. But as we see, for a mid-block, this is a very compact structure, no spaces between the lines, and a very narrow back four that left a lot of space in behind for Liverpool to threaten. But as we said, it wasn't successful, and this also led to Villarreal being very good in dealing with second balls and transitioning very well going forward, then finding feet and establishing control in these volatile phases of the match. Now in the second half, when Liverpool maintained a little bit more control, we saw them use a greater position of full width, and Villarreal dropped deeper in their own half. And we see Thiago occupying the left half space as a deep line playmaker, Trent Alexander-Arnold on the right side providing more width with their offensive structure and forcing Villarreal back into their own third. Their rest defense also improved for Liverpool with their three-man midfield of Naby Keita, Fabinho, and either Thiago or Luis Diaz dropping between the lines as the third central midfielder in a more attacking position, with Andy Robertson then occupying full width. So from here, Liverpool were able to then maintain possession and keep Villarreal in their own half much better and lock them into a 4-4-2. Villarreal maintained this 4-4-2 setup for most of the match. They did show some signs of moving to a back five with the versatility of the wide midfielders, but for the most part, it was a 4-4-2. So in this low block, Liverpool were much more successful when they manipulated the shape, used full width, and put stress on these horizontal and vertical connections between the lines. And we see Salah play a much more narrow role throughout the match and putting him in more dangerous positions in and around the penalty area. Now Villarreal, will look at a few instances on what they tried to do in possession. Now in the first half, they were much more successful going forward than in the second. And some of this was because the width came from the fullbacks in deeper areas, which then put stress on Liverpool's pressing setup and forced a player like Mo Salah to then not be able to go press a central defender without leaving the fullback player free to progress the ball. Then we see in the midfield, Parejo anchoring the midfield as a single pivot and allowing players to overload the space between the lines, whether it's Lo Celso coming in off the wide midfield position, creating overload with Etienne Capoue, or we see the central striker dropping deeper between the lines, playing as a free role. They had a lot of players between the lines, so when they did go to play vertical passes, they had not only good targets, but also good support in and around the ball, which made them very well prepared for second ball situations and controlling transitions. So Liverpool, they went with their pressing setup that saw Thiago fall next to Fabinho, often almost creating a double pivot when they were pressing, with Naby Keita playing more as a number 10. So this man orientation often worked against Liverpool in the first half when these vertical passes did arrive and numerical advantages were found in the center of the field. But in the second half, it was much, much better from Liverpool, and Villarreal couldn't get out of their own half very easily. Now for the last picture, we'll look at Liverpool's 4-3-3 in the mid-block, trying to set pressing traps, but also the connections of the wide wingers being very stretched because of the height of the fullback and the versatility from this Villarreal side. Now we see asymmetry to then prepare for transition, with Foyth playing as a deeper right fullback and the left fullback providing full width. And we see Etienne Capoue overloading the space between the lines in this right half space, narrowing the midfield and defensive shape of Liverpool, allowing for a lot of options to then be played direct from this Villarreal first line of build-up. But in the second half, again, the pressing became a lot better from Liverpool, and Villarreal struggled to maintain the same level of play that they performed in the first half. That's where we're going to wrap up the analysis, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one.